So, as we respond to the deconstruction movement, because it has a lot of wrestling with doubts and asking questions, sort of integral to the whole nature of its existence, a pushback against the deconstruction movement may be perceived as a pushback against asking questions, or a call or invite to blindly believe and to hold on to what there is without any dissidence or anything of that sort. What is a very healthy and carefully curated way to engage?
Because I think the deconstruction movement, if there's anything positive I can say about it, it has been kind of a wake-up call, I think, to the church that we need to do better at making environments that are open to questioners and doubters. And so we actually devote an entire chapter in our book called Questions. And our hope is that, man, if there's one chapter every church pastor reads, we need to create a space where people feel like they can come with their questions, because every deconstruction story, every single one I've heard, had unanswered questions. And I mean, we could go down that path and why that is, but at the end of the day, the church needs to be that environment where, hey, come ask your questions. Absolutely. Now, you may not like the answers we give, okay, fair enough, but we don't want you to leave because we said you can't ask your questions. So by the way, when it comes to the research on, people leaving the church and leaving the faith, one of the things the researchers notice is that doubt wasn't the problem. It was unexpressed doubt. And so what we don't want is that kind of unexpressed doubt, or that suppressed, leads to disaster. Okay. That leads to an unhealthy faith or a loss of faith altogether. Want is people to express their doubts, and in the process actually grow in their love for God. And we think there's evidence of that. We see that happen. In fact, the research bears that out. So I would want to say, man, ask your questions, express your doubts, do it in a community that you trust, obviously, people that will hunt for answers with you. It's not enough just to ask the questions or express your doubts, but do it with people who are willing to take the time to hunt down those answers for you. I know a lot of these deconstructionists, they don't really care about the answers, to be honest. The Naked Pastor, for example, he would say that answers aren't where it's at. He says, just, well, hold on a sec. Again, that's existentially exhausting. I think as human beings, we all want to know deep down what some of the answers are. Now, we don't have all the answers. We'd be the first to say that. We say it in our book. There's lots of questions that I don't have answers to, and I'm an apologist. And so we got to be real about that. There's things that God has just not revealed and has not explained. Fair enough. But that doesn't mean we don't know anything. There are certain things we can know because God has revealed himself, either in scripture, in nature, or through his son. So search for those answers and know at the end of the day that Jesus can handle your questions and your doubts. We see this over and over in scripture. We see it with John the Baptist. When John the Baptist says, "Are you the guy? Should we look for someone else?" And so he's doubting. He's asking, what does Jesus do? He provides evidence. He says, look, the deaf are hearing, the blind are seeing. All these things that the Messiah is supposed to be doing, I'm doing them. And then he turns to his disciples and says, there's no one greater than John the Baptist. Almost like, they're probably wondering, is this guy a bad Christian? Like, is John lost his way? No, John hasn't lost. John is asking a legitimate question here, and here's the answer. And that's how we should handle his doubt. When the father comes to Jesus and his son falling into the fire, and he's at kind of wit's end, he doesn't know what else to do. And Jesus says, just believe. And he says, I do believe, help my unbelief. Again, here's this guy who says, I'm telling you, I'm being honest with you. I believe a little, but I also don't believe a little, but I need you to help my unbelief. That we call that the iffy prayer, if you can do this, Jesus. And Jesus says, he responds and actually heals the son as a result. So the whole point is, as humans, you're not going to go through this life without questions and doubts. It's not a matter of if they come, but when they come. And so when they do come, here's the process to go through. And it's express your doubts, doubt out loud, do it with people you trust, then go search for those answers. you know, and then of course understand that this is okay. Jesus doesn't think you're a bad Christian for asking your question or expressing your doubt.